Okay, as I've said before, I really like this Dillon XL650. It does everything basically on its own. All you gotta do is keep stroking the handle and place a bullet on the case at the appropriate station. Everything else is taken care of for you. It's all great until you need to make an adjustment, and everything wants to keep feeding, like your primer feeder. How do you turn off the primer feeder? Do you want to turn off the primer feeder? I don't know. I do from time to time. Whether that's something you should do, I can't speak for you. Make your own determination or consult the factory, because what I'm doing is not in the manual, so take it with a grain of salt. But anyways, when I'm trying to set my powder weight or seating depth or whatever I'm doing, and I don't want primers to keep dispensing, because as you may be aware, every time you stroke the handle, the primer feeder will index the next primer into position. If it's not picked up by a case, it gets discharged into this little chute and caught over here. That's nice, but I've had on a number of occasions live primers not get retained in this portion of the chute, but go out onto the floor, and that bugs me because I don't like live primers on the floor. So I had to figure out a way to shut this primer feed off. So I'll move the camera in a little closer and show you what I did. So you're probably aware how this thing works. The primer indexing arm has a little tooth on it that catches into the holes on the rotary primer disc, and as you bring the shell plate up, that arm contacts this cam here and moves the primer disc one position with each stroke. So how to prevent that from happening, to disable the primer feed, there's not a lot of options the way I was looking at it. I'm not going to remove this cam. That's there's adjustments on there, it appears, and I really don't want to disassemble anything, so I'm trying to figure out how to keep this indexing arm from moving the primer disc each time we cycle the handle. So my first idea was to put something in between the index arm and the primer disc so that it couldn't engage it. So for, I guess you can call it proof of concept, I just grabbed a number 6 flat washer and I stuck it underneath the index arm. I'm lifting up on the index arm right now, slid it under, got it into position so that the tongue on the index arm is in the hole in the washer. Thinking that maybe the index arm, the tooth on the index arm, won't be able to engage the holes on the primer disc now. And that seems to be true. I don't know if you can see that as a cycle. If I move this with my finger, as you can see, the flat washer just moves along with the index arm when I manipulate it with my finger here. That's what's happening also when we cycle the handle, and the index arm rides up on that cam there. So as you can see, this thing is a little tricky to get in and out of there, but it did give me confidence to move forward with that idea. So again, this is just a number 6 flat washer that I pulled out of a drawer. So I started scratching my head and looking around, and went to good old McMaster-Carr and found these things here. Here they call it lobe flat steel retaining washer. On the website they call it a, what do they call it, a tag washer or something. This is actually what it looks like. It's got a small hole and a big hole. It's made to put a wire through here and a tag for instrumentation or things such as that. But basically I wanted something with a little hole that would catch the tooth on the index arm with something I could grab onto. So we got this thing here. So if I put that in there, you know what, I'm gonna move the camera around here. Okay, I just moved the camera into another position, maybe you can see this a little better. So I got this tag washer, or whatever they called it. So I got something to grab onto. I still can't quite get in there. If I put it in from this direction here, I can get it in there. I've got something to hold on to. It's in place now. Not sure if you can see that, but if I manipulate the index arm with my finger, it doesn't engage the primer disc. So that's great. But one thing we want to check for is that this isn't going to bind up anything. So let's reposition the camera. Okay, I have the tag washer in here. Let's see what happens if I cycle the handle now. I'm looking under here with my eyes. I know you can't see it, but I want to make sure that this thing does not get pinched in here anywhere. Once this index arm is pressed by the cam, again, we don't have anything jamming up or binding and breaking. And there is a little bit of play there, so I could leave it like that, but there's not a lot of wiggle room there. So I suppose I could use it that way. Notice how easy I pulled it out of there because I got something to grab onto. I just grabbed the large end there and gave it a little tug. Comes out. Now we're back in business. What I did is took one of these things and bent it on about 90 degrees there. And I'm going to put it in from the back side here. Lifting up the index arm, getting into position so that the tooth on the index arm is in that small hole again. You can barely see it there. Slide this over a bit. Okay, so I got that into position like such. And now it looks like we're okay. Let's try it with the camera over here so you can see what's going on. There's, again, is the tag washer I just stuck in to lift the index arm up off the primer disc. And I got the shell plate all the way up, and it doesn't look like it's contacting anything that it should not, so nothing's binding up. That's good. And it is sliding right along the top of the primer disc, so the primer disc is not indexing, thus not dispensing live primers into that chute over there. Slides along the primer disc real nice. So that's what I'm going to go with for now. I'm going to try this with the large primer disc. See if it works out okay on there. Okay, I thought I'd try this with the large primer disc installed. I was concerned that maybe this piece I'm using to disable the primer index arm, that piece might dip into the larger holes and render it useless or worse. So anyways, it seems to be okay. I'll bring it up. You can see the index arm already advanced, and the disc did not advance. So it seems to be working just fine with the large primer disc, small primer disc, without advancing either one of them. If you're curious what the difference is between the number 6 flat washer and this tag washer here, let's take a couple dimensions that might be relevant. Thickness 0.032. Let's try this one. 0.036, very similar. The small hole ID 0.139, and on the flat washer 0.159. So if you want to fabricate something on your own, there's something you might be able to reference. I'm not sure for what, but I just thought I'd add that in here. Whatever you try to do on your press to overcome any of this automatic functions on here, just be careful. I suggest you look at everything, you know, from every angle. Make sure nothing is binding again. If you break something and you go to Dillon and you tell them, "Oh, I saw some guy on the internet do this," they might laugh at you. I don't know. So just check everything out before you try to do something like this. But it seems to be working well for me. Saved me a lot of grief, not chasing primers around on the floor that fell out of the chute here or whatever. It's a useful tool in making adjustments or powder charge changes, whatever. So I'll put the part number for this thing, McMaster-Carr part number, somewhere on this video or in the description somewhere. You can get them, like I said, from McMaster-Carr. I think with shipping, you have to buy a package of 10. With shipping, it was about 16 bucks. I used one of them. I've got 9 left. If you want one, send me a PM and I got a deal for you. So good luck and be safe.